I'm gonna try and make this video shorter than 5 minutes. Let's go. Canelo is in a downward spiral, and I've seen it slowly happening since the Caleb Plant fight. Even though he won the Caleb Plant fight, I kind of saw him struggling early on and getting outboxed pretty clean, in my opinion, by Caleb Plant, because he was winging power shots and not really trying to set him up. And he's already flat-footed, so somebody with a good jab and somebody that can move can really give him trouble. The exemplar, the perfect example is Bivol. Bivol fight, what else did we see? Well, we saw the same thing, except for this time he abandoned his jab too. He abandoned his jab in that, not necessarily a lead hand, because he's still throwing that left hook as one of his best weapons, but he abandoned that jab, and he abandoned kind of probing, playing with it, blah 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 blah. But there's an important element later on. So there's two things that three problems with Canelo that is going to spell the end of his pound for pound reign. Number one is what I just said, his offense. Wing and power shots, not setting him up, abandoning his jab. We saw that in the Bivol fight and the Caleb Plant fight. But then the second thing is his stamina issues. He gassed out in 4 rounds versus Bivol. You can make the excuses that's weight, but then versus Triple G, where he was fighting more at his pace, he gassed out in like 7-8 rounds. Well, he didn't gas out in that fight, but he got noticeably tired. And then in the John Ryder fight, 7 to 8 rounds, same thing, where he starts putting his hands down. He starts getting a little bit lazy with his defense. But the third part, and this part is the most significant to my eyes when I saw it. And this is the reason why. Well, I didn't really finish the John Ryder fight for a couple reasons. I only watched like 9 rounds. It was mainly Canelo's offense. But then the third thing that really was disappointing me and had me kind of worried for his future is his defense. Now what he does is he just sits there in his high guard, leans forward, and just eats uppercuts and straight punches and hooks around the guard. He doesn't really adjust his high guard. He doesn't have, it's not dynamic. That's one thing, but he lost his head movement. The most special thing about Canelo's defense is his head movement. Under all the circumstances we've seen him, when he was gassed versus Bivol, he was still able to move his head and get out of the way, blah, 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 blah. Amazing reflexes. And yeah, the head movement has always been a great tool for him, but it seems like in this fight, he abandoned it. And if this trend continues, well then it's not gonna look good for Canelo. But the head movement is also a setup for counters and traps and more dynamic types of offense, other than just walking forward and winging power shots. So overall he's becoming more and more simplistic, and I think that's going to lead to more and more close fights and more losses against fighters that a couple years ago he would have beaten. And perfect example is, I think David Benavidez has a really good shot of beating him now. Before I was like Canelo would sleep Benavidez, because speaking of having no head movement, Canelo sleep Benavidez because Benavidez walks right forward and he just have a static high guard and he don't move his head, and it's like, well, guess who does that now? Canelo, you know. Yeah, it's just his offense has gotten worse, his defense has gotten worse, his stamina looks like it's gotten worse. It looks like it's all downhill from here. Immortality Serum out.
Immortality Serum is the faction. Plenty entertainment if you asking. Gaming commentary and reactions. There ain't no faking, neither is the capping. It just goes lights, camera, action. Let's go.